Let's start with the bye week. Do you feel like it's coming at a good time for this group, and how do you be productive sort of coming out of it where you want to be?
Yeah, I think definitely 4 games in, you're able to, get enough underneath your belt to where you've been pretty physical, and it's not quite halfway yet, but you're pretty close. Obviously, kind of going into the majority of the conference schedule now gives you a chance to just kind of reset a little bit, make sure you kind of know where you are personnel wise. So I think it is good. I think one of the things you have to do, you have to make sure that you're staying fresh. You're using it as a bye week, not an off week. You got to try to get healthy. You got to try to rest some guys and make sure that we can recharge mentally, emotionally, physically, kind of all the things. And still got to make sure that we're still clean and going, enough to where we stay sharp and be able to pick up where we left off here come next Monday when we get ready for game prep.
What's your overall assessment of the Davenport game? Where positives,
hmm
negatives, a lot of both again.
Yeah. No, I think that was a game where, a lot of, I think, emotional investment where it's homecoming. The previous 3 games, we were so close, and I think the team understood where we were at. And I think, they felt like, we had been climbing and growing and, continually getting better all the time. And I think, had some miscues, had some, just some poor execution on a handful of plays that really got us. We're going into the fourth quarter down by 5, still in it, still fighting, still trying to find a way. And all of a sudden the momentum really shifted right there. And I think, just kind of affected us a little bit, right? And so I think, you come out of that game, obviously not getting the result we want. I think there's a definite disappointment. There's a definite emotional shift there that guys had felt. It being a homecoming game, it being a game that we felt like we were ready for, and we were building on top of the other ones previously. And so I think there is a little bit of an emotional shift here that we've got to make sure that we manage well. And as a team, I think there's a lot of things that we're still doing extremely well and getting better at and staying focused on. And, it comes down to making sure that in a 4-quarter game, every play matters, and guys have to understand how to execute consistently and make sure that we're able to do that. I think, kind of to address that, defensively, there were some plays that got away from us that we had seen earlier in the game that we were just great against, and we had stopped them on those particular plays, and we had fit up the particular defensive call that we had called in. So to try to figure that out, to make sure that we're more in tune and more sharp on a consistent basis with that is what we need to do, because I felt like our best was good enough. We just have to sustain that.
Another game where you dominated time of possession. You guys were
hmm
good on third down. That's been a stretch of these games in a row where you're
Yeah,
doing that, which I imagine is by design with the offense you run.
sure.
Just how does that end up turning into a win? Is what
Correct.
you're trying to get at, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's a great question. I mean, I think that's where our team has to learn how to win, and they have to learn how to get over that hump. I think we have to continue to understand the growth that needs to take place, the hunger and the desire of just making sure that everything is as sharp and as crisp and clean in our preparation so that it can lead us to getting into those moments on Saturday where we're able to take advantage of, being able to score more points when we need to, being able to stop some of the big plays, when we need to. Special forces, we need to continue to get better in that area. Gave up a blocked punt for a touchdown. That didn't feel good at all. So I think we've got to be able to challenge our guys. They've got to be able to see it. They've got to be able to own it and go forward with it, knowing that we got to get over the hump of learning how to win when we're in the game and in those moments where the bullets are flying.
Yeah. Noah Dober just kind of came out of the gates there.
Yeah,
What did you see from his performance on the
yeah,
ground, and why you guys kept feeding him?
for sure. Yeah, I think there were a couple of runs that he had where he really slipped through some tight windows and found some creases and some seams and made some great cuts. And, I think he was running with some adrenaline and he was energized. And, we know what he's capable of. And I think it was great to see that he finally was able to break out and show and be productive, on a game like that. And I thought, there were some guys that did a really good job too up front that helped it. I thought Chris Bornhoff at center did a really nice job to getting up to on the linebacker majority of the game. Luke Emmons started at right guard for us as a young guy, and that was one of his first full productive opportunities that he had, and did some really nice things. And so, I think there's some guys up front that are battling, that are trying to create that run game, and then Noah was able to take advantage of it.
Did you go into this one knowing you probably weren't going to throw the ball as much as you did against St. Thomas?
Yeah, I think, we wanted to run it. We wanted to be able to establish that. I think that's always kind of a staple in how we think offensively. And yet, what happens out there when you get going and you see what they're going to line up in against us and what type of look they're giving us, that kind of is always subject to kind of fluctuate. And so, of course, with Duke going out, right, that doesn't help in the passing game because we feel really comfortable with him being able to throw the ball. And so, I think maybe there's just a couple dynamics that maybe led to that a little bit. But, of course, we want to throw the ball. We need to throw the ball. And we got to find a way to continue to contribute to the overall total yardage on offense in the passing game.
How is Duke looking for coming out of the bye? Or are there any other injuries that are of note?
Yeah. Duke is going to be out. So we will definitely need to make sure that we're able to get other guys ready. So that's a tough one.
Do you know how long he'll be on?
Yeah, don't know exactly what the nature is yet. But as of yesterday and today, he is out right now. So, I think, other injuries, you've got, just kind of some hands and some ankles and some things, hopefully not too serious. You got some knees, some of that this week. We're trying to just make sure that we evaluate with the doctors and make sure that we're on track with knowing, kind of the longevity of some of those bangs are. But, so, we always have to have quarterbacks ready to go, I think, in this offense, they're going to get banged up and we got to have guys, that are going to be able to step in and take quality snaps for us right away. So hopefully the bye week gives us an opportunity to get guys healthy, rested, other guys get repped up a little bit so they can be ready to go too.
Yeah. Last thing, just coming out of this one, does it feel any different knowing you have Davenport on the schedule again? Just that being pretty rare in college football.
Yeah.
We're going to see them again later.
Sure. I think it gives our guys an opportunity to see clearly the mistakes that we made, and take nothing away from Davenport. They had good athletes. I thought they were well coached. I thought defensively they were so much more disciplined this year than maybe they were last year against us. I thought their plan against us was better. And I think from our standpoint, there were a lot of things that we could control better. And so to get that back again, to have a second time around with them, I think will be good for our guys to be able to stay hungry with that. So, for our guys, I think if we can just continue to focus on us, continue to focus on what we need to be better at all the time. We can't look past any opponent. We can't put any opponent that's, more important than the next. We've got enough troubles every day of our own that we just need to make sure that we focus on. And I think if we can keep our guys in a good one play at a time mentality, I think we can get better this week and then going into the future here.
Conference season is already here. Just the state of the union on your team and some of the things you have been able to figure out about just so many new players.
Yeah. Obviously, last weekend was tough, right? Not getting any set wins. Davenport, we thought we had a good game plan against them. They executed well. Their defense, we couldn't get the ball to the floor, and I think that was starting to frustrate us a little bit. Ferris is just a really quality opponent, but in the third set against Davenport, I think we're up like 15-6 and lose that set. And then we had a 23-all in the second set against Ferris, and made a couple of mistakes there down the stretch to lose that set. I think we're in like that point of a losing streak where everyone's just kind of holding their breath, waiting for something to happen. And I think that pressure we're putting on ourselves is causing a lot of stress, right? And one thing I talk to the team all the time about, when I'm coaching them and I'll ask them like, what's going through your head? A lot of times they're like, I just don't want to let anybody down, right? And that type of mentality, while it's admirable, oftentimes can lead to more mistakes, right? You're putting too much pressure on yourself. And I kind of had a realization even on Saturday for myself, where I was like, man, every time we lose, all I'm thinking about is like, oh, I'm letting the fans down. I'm letting the department down. I'm letting these athletes down. And I'm putting a lot of pressure on myself too. And I think we all just need to step back and say, hey, we just got to keep going and keep getting better. And I think the problem is, Monday through Thursday, I feel great. And then at the start of the match, I feel great. And the minute we start to face adversity, I can feel our team start to tighten up. And I think that's our problem. Because like when I watch this in practice, I'm like, all right, I'm starting to feel really good about this. And then we start performing and you're just going, the number of times I've looked over my assistants and said, I've never seen us do these things that we're doing right now. And so I think a lot of it is between the ears. And so yesterday we did a lot of meetings and talking and, trying to figure out ways to kind of overcome that side of the game, because I don't think it's physical anymore. I think a lot of it's just mental.
And there's such a long way to go in the season, and you guys can look completely different come November. Are you trying to remind your athletes of that
Yeah.
you can't give up now, right? Because
Yeah.
there's so much left. Is that?
Oh yeah, and the giving up will never happen.
Right.
Until the end of the season. The giving up is not in our vocabulary. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think there is some reality to that. This is our first weekend at home. We're at the end of September, and this is our first home weekend, and so I think that plays a role as well. But yeah, I think the reminder we still have a lot to go, a lot of volleyball to go. And fortunately or unfortunately, I'm familiar with this. In 23, we had a really, really rough start. Then we came around and we finished, I think, fifth in the league. Like so we figured it out. We were playing really good volleyball at the end, and so I think we got to kind of find our way there. And the one thing I learned in that season in particular was there's really no like cure other than just putting the work in. And so we get to work every day to get better, and to see some of our younger players or inexperienced players, is maybe a better way to say it, find their way as they go. And I think we're starting to do that.
So have the issues been more on attack, or would you say on defense, which is a bigger area for you guys to address this week?
Yeah, passing, serve, receive in particular. So that first contact just was not nearly good enough this last weekend, and that puts a lot of pressure on a lot of things. If you're not passing the ball and serve receive well, then your offense is going to be predictable. And if your offense is predictable, the likelihood of the defense digging the ball and coming back at you is pretty high. And so it just becomes a slippery slope. And then you make a couple mistakes. And like I said, the mental side of it really starts to weigh on you when you get aced and you're like, oh, here we go. And then you're just like, don't mess up. And that's definitely our mentality. Like I talked to the athletes after some matches. They're like, yes, I am afraid of making mistakes, as opposed to like wanting the ball and wanting to execute. And that's what the really hard thing is that, it's not a physical thing, it's mental. And so we're trying to retrain our brains in that aspect. But serve receive is for sure number one. Because when we pass the ball and our offense is open, so we can set Maddie on the right side, Kenzie or Emmy in the middle, and then it opens up our outside, we have been successful. It's just not happening often enough. And so we're addressing that. We're working on it. I think a little bit. I've shifted how I've coached them in practice a little bit with how we're approaching a lot less training, a lot more game situations, because that's really where we're faltering. When we're in a really controlled environment, we look great. But the minute you add variables or unpredictability to the game, we start to like fall apart a little bit. And so we've re-strategized practice in that way, and hopefully we'll see the results on Friday.
Then what do you know about Parkside and Roosevelt coming in here this weekend?
Yeah, Parkside's undefeated. They've been doing well. They had their outside was player of the week this week. They've also played at home a lot, so we're going to catch them on the road, and hopefully that can be a bonus for us. Their right side, Sam Fish, is getting a ton of balls too, and she's doing a really nice job, and she's also a pretty big blocker there against our outsides. So we're just going to have to kind of move around as much as we can, try to get our middles to the ball, get our right side Maddie the ball as much as we can, because she's a force. And then Roosevelt, I mean, they're slightly improved, but to be honest with you, I haven't watched a lot of Roosevelt. I've really focused on Parkside, and so we just got to be ready for them. And once Friday ends, then we'll focus on a little bit more on Roosevelt.
Cool. Overall impressions on this past weekend, what you saw, what was positives, negatives, and just your overall takeaway from this past weekend?
Sure. Yeah, I think last week we talked about being on the road, and we haven't done that yet. So it was good to get that first road trip underneath us. Came out with a positive result on Friday, came out with not as great of a result on Sunday. I think that there's lessons to be learned from both ends of that. And so as we look to kind of start this next couple weeks of home games, we take the good and we try and fix the bad and learn from it and get better. And I think that's constantly every day what we've got to, and I know I sound like a broken record, but we got to continue to make strides to getting better and growing as a group. And I think we see glimpses of really good things. And I think what we liked most about this weekend was our creativity. We got a lot of chances to score goals. On the downside, we gave up 4 goals in 2 games. And so, that's certainly not something that I'm happy with. It's something that we hope to, as we go into this next weekend again against good teams, we got to shore up some things before we walk into Grand Valley and Davenport this weekend.
Yeah. What did that do for the players to see 4 goals go in on Friday?
4 goals in like 25 minutes too. I think there's a certain excitement there, and I think we talked about going into the game that there were goals to be had. I think I told him on Thursday, if you're not going to bed tonight dreaming about scoring a goal, like you're not in the right headspace for the game. And we created a lot, and like we talked about before, the more you create, the more good opportunities you have to score. We created a lot on Friday. I think in the first half we were not as productive as we should have been in front of goal. And then in the second half, we kept hunting, and we scored a couple of really nice goals. And so I think it just gives you that sense of belief, like, yeah, we can do this. We've created in the past, but now you finally see them hitting the back of the net. That's great. And so we hope to keep that going. And we created a fair number of chances on Sunday too. Again, not quite clinical enough in front of goal. I think that you have to have a killer instinct, and we don't have enough girls that want to shoulder that responsibility or are willing to take on that responsibility yet. And that's the fun part of the game when you get into the final third. And so that's something we'll continue to promote because we have a lot of girls who do have the potential to score goals, and we're creating chances. Now we've got to actually turn those chances into scores.
Yeah, I know there was a result both times this weekend, but 3 draws in the non-conference. I'm just wondering how you as a coach view a draw. Does it really kind of depend on how the game plays out?
Yeah.
Sometimes is it a win to come out of there with a tie, or
Yeah.
how do you view that? How do you communicate that post game?
Yeah, I think it's all about how we play. That's really what it comes down to. And I've said this, and I'll say it. The more games that you play well, the better your results will be. There's more longevity if you're playing a good brand of soccer and you have an identity and you're coming and consistently playing at a high level. We haven't found that consistency yet. Full transparency, we're riding the roller coaster a little bit. And so I wasn't disappointed on Sunday with our result. I was disappointed in how we played because we didn't deserve a result on Sunday. We didn't earn a result on Sunday. We didn't play well enough. And so that's, I think, the messaging going forward. Results take care of themselves if you're doing what you're supposed to do in game. A few of those ties were good results for us. That opening game against St. Cloud was a cracking game for both teams. I thought that was a fair result, and we were very happy with how we played. Same thing with Cedarville. I was almost disappointed because I thought we were the better team for large spells of that game. But again, Cedarville being a highly ranked team in our region, we know we can play. We know we can play and perform at a high level. It's just how do we get that more consistently? And again, new team, lots of newness in other ways. We're still trying to find our feet game after game and trying to keep the level high and not have so many drop-offs. Again, that roller coaster is we've got our peaks and we got our valleys, and they're vastly different. We've got to find our way to being a little bit more consistent in how we're performing over 90 minutes and then how we're performing over 2 games in a weekend.
Yeah. Grand Valley coming in here on Friday. Historically, they're top of the conference for the last couple of years. Obviously, it's been an enemy right there with them, and there's been some battles. Being at home has to be nice. Is there an element of trying to set a tone, on your home field this Friday? Just how are you communicating with the team about that?
Yeah, I don't think our team's going to have any trouble getting up for Grand Valley. I know that's a good rivalry, and Grand Valley has a really nice team. They have a very good side. They're off to a really good start to their season. I think for our girls, it's about having the mentality that we're going to be in a dogfight. And we want to be in a dogfight. We want to make the game difficult for them. And that's true of Grand Valley or any other team that comes into our home field. No one should be able to walk away saying, like, that was an easy game. We want to make teams have to battle us as hard as they can if they're going to come out of here with anything other than a loss. And so I think once we refresh and get through this week, I think the girls are really looking forward to the opportunity to play, one of the best teams in the conference, one of the best teams in the nation right now. And so I think I always look at it as you get to test yourself against the best. We need to show up and bring our A game and put our best foot forward. And that's what we're going to have to do if we want to be in that game. And I guarantee you they're having that same conversation, right? They're going to show up and bring the best that they've got, and we've got to match that. Being at home has been good to us. I mean, we've performed mostly well since we've been home. I think it's nice to be back in cooler weather. That's one thing I'll say about traveling. It's a little bit of an adjustment, and it's not an excuse, but it's just something that our girls have not had to deal with at all this season. So, coming back into what we know and is a little bit more familiar, I think will be nice for everyone. But we've got a good week of training ahead of us, and I think we're excited for our second week of conference games. I expect that Friday game to have a lot of life, a lot of energy, and it's going to be a good battle.
Yeah, Coach, your just takeaways from the Parkside game. Obviously, really tough. Opponent.
Yeah.
Not the result you wanted. Just what did you see out there that could have been better?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. Not much, to be honest. I think we played a fantastic first half. Guys came out and executed the plan to perfection. We're up a goal within 7 minutes. We had hit the bar, hit the crossbar, had a bunch of chances. So I thought we played really, really well. But it's those down moments for us where we just kind of let teams sort of take some territory, take some space. And when you leave it up to the referee to make calls and you're not handling it itself, you never know. It's 50-50. Was it a tough call? Probably. But at the same time, we allowed them to get inside our box, get 1v1 on our right back, and, things happen. So I think that's the takeaway is we have to understand that we got to close the door on teams, especially when we're up. And number two, we can't switch off for half a second. And that 1 second at the end of the half that kind of buried us on the own goal was literally 44:59 on the clock was when that own goal went in. So we went in halftime playing probably one of the best halves I've ever seen here. Down a goal, they had more goals than shots. Their only shot was a penalty kick. I don't think you can get much better than that. So I'm at a loss. I was at a loss for the guys. I didn't know what to tell them because they played great and they found themselves down a goal. So the biggest takeaways was just we've got to do a better job of closing teams out, not letting them get an inch of space, especially on our home field. And then ultimately, again, we're saying the same thing 3 weeks in a row. We got to finish our chances. We had tons of chances to go up 2, go up 3 before they got their penalty kick, and we didn't do it. And then, again, a team like Parkside's a good team, and obviously they're always in it, but they're not going to go away quietly. Nobody in the GLIAC is, and I think those are the biggest takeaways. Is we got to close the deal on these games. It's 2 games in a row where we've had a lead, and we've conceded and not gotten full points. So
Probably especially difficult when your goal comes in the first 10 minutes or whatever, and then 80 some minutes to do that. Has that been an emphasis in practice, just game flow and how you guys can control it, especially at home?
Not necessarily. I would just say that our mentality was to really come out and possess, and I think we did a good job at Lake Erie doing that, and we try to emphasize that on last Friday, and they followed the game plan. I think our emphasis is just killing teams off in training, and just having that killer instinct inside the box in the opposition half, just making sure that we don't allow teams an inch, because that inch is actually hurt us really bad. So we know we're in these games. We're obviously dominant at times, but it's got to be for a full 90 minutes. And then that's what we're trying to emphasize. Is it a fitness thing? I don't think so. I think our guys are fit. We have the data. We know that they're running a lot. They're recovering well. It's football is a brutal sport. You got to be tight the whole game. You can't allow a team in. And I think we executed the game plan the way we wanted. Even early in the second half, even when we were down a goal, came out firing, got a shot right away, got a corner kick right away. And then they just kind of scored on a counter. And when you're down 3-1, at that point the game plan's out of the window. You got to find a way, and it became a little bit more direct. And their goalkeeper's the reigning goalkeeper of the conference, so it was going to be tough to try to bang in goals when they're up 2. versus when we're up one and we're getting chance after chance, we've got to find those chances and finish them. So I don't think it has anything to do with the in the game flow. We know we're a good possession team and we can keep it. The guys know that. So I don't think it has anything to do with that. I think it just has to do with the mental aspect of the game, where you get a little bit tired and you just switch off for a second, you don't track for a second, and typically that's where a good team will exploit that moment, and they did.
To kind of close the book on the non-conference season, yeah, you called that road trip to Lewis and Lake Erie a big weekend for the program. Just how do you feel coming out of that and playing those teams so tough, both of them?
Yeah, very good. I mean, I think the message is really how the guys feel, not necessarily how I feel, and they're super confident. They know they're a good team. They know they can battle. They know they can play with anybody. Even after the loss on Friday, I think the spirit is very high in the locker room, and there's no one doubting what we're doing. But it's a little bit of a wake-up call that, hey, none of these games are done until they're done. And so, yeah, very happy with where we are, the progress of the program over the last couple of years. But now we're in it, and the guys are hungry for success. The guys are hungry to win and to actually be at the top at the end of the season, not just, hey, we're competitive now. That's not enough for our locker room. It's all relative of where you want to go. And our vision is pretty high. Our goal is really, really high. It's not just to, come here and be average. It's to be great. And to be great, you got to do all the little things. So although we feel good about the test and we measured ourselves pretty well against the top competition in the region, we then lost a game at home that we should have won. So it's never as good as it seems. It's usually never as bad as it seems. But yeah, I'm happy where we are. I think the team is. I think they all know we're very good. This is the best team I've ever had here. We're deep. We've got guys on the bench that haven't played a minute that are last year they would have played in every game. And so that's positive, and we're going to continue to push this. We don't lose a lot of seniors this year. We lose, 2 or 3 impact seniors, but still, it's a young group again. So we're really happy from a positional standpoint where we are as a program. But that doesn't matter right now. What matters is getting wins, and I think that's got to be our focus.
Purdue and Roosevelt this weekend on the road. Just
Tough. Yeah, they're tough. Purdue's a tough place to play. Their surface and just the environment, and Roosevelt's defending co-champions, right? And they're a very good team. Both teams are going to be similar to Parkside in terms of their personnel, so we kind of know what to expect. But anytime you go on the road in the GLIAC, nothing's easy. The refs are not going to be aside. The fields are not great. You're away from home. You're out of your routine. So it's always tough on the road. And so we're focused on Purdue and getting a result on Friday, and then we'll turn our attention to Roosevelt. But they're two very good teams. They've been, champions in the last 2 years. So they've got some guys on their team that know how to win and know how to be at the top of the conference. So we're going to have to bring our best for sure.
How many teams in the conference play on turf?
Just about everybody except us in Parkside. Yeah, we're the only grass teams.
How do you manage that?
Yeah, we go in the dome. We're lucky enough to have both surfaces, and so we'll practice. We practiced in the dome yesterday. We'll be in the dome tomorrow and then Thursday. So we just prepare as best we can on the dome. It's everyone loves to play on perfect grass like we have, but we might have to adapt our game a little bit. So, the ball comes in a lot faster at Purdue. Maybe we need to play a little bit more safe balls, a little less risk, be more risk adverse in terms of our build out. And we'll just have to adapt at the field. I think some guys, this will be their first time there, but they're both turf teams, and so we're kind of used to that. We played on turf both games on the road, so I don't think it's too big of a difference just because the guys are used to it. But yeah, we come in the dome and practice here. It's nice to have the facilities that we can operate on both, and I'm just thankful that football is so awesome to work with, that they allow us some time on the turf during their season, so we can prepare for away games. So I think it's awesome to be in an environment like this where teams are working together for mutual success.
Well, that was a pretty awesome weekend for your team. Just what was it like to see that performance and then see all the girls, with some hardware at the end of it? Out of 24 teams,
Yeah.
how many runners were out there? What was it like for you to see that?
Yeah, it was really exciting, really, just awesome and fun. Years past, we've been on the podium with the top 3 teams, but it's been quite a while. And so for me, it was just really exciting, and just to see all the hard work that they've done, I know in the past couple of years and then through the summer, really paying off. And I got kind of emotional just watching how great they did. So just super happy and so much fun for them, and they were also happy. course, it was a really tough course, and really humid, and it had rained all night, so it was slow. So just watching them, just their toughness during the race was just inspiring.
Yeah, probably can't say enough about Maddie and what she does for the entire group. Just having her back, I know we talked right before the season about, how she rehabbed and built back up and came back maybe even stronger, faster. But to see it in action this weekend, what was that like?
Yeah, that was so great for her to, and for her to just have the confidence to be able to get out there and go with that top group, knowing everything she went through, but she just kind of believed in herself and believed in her team and went for it. And so nice to see that, so fun and so great for the team. And then the team behind her just was also doing so well. So, and I yelled that to her a couple of times that the team's doing really well, keep it going.
How does she make everyone else better? I imagine in her absence last year, you were expecting other girls to be in the front for your team, and then when she comes back, I think probably in practice, everyone's kind of chasing her, right? So
Yeah.
that does make the whole team perform a little bit better.
Yeah, for sure. And then we just talked about that yesterday in practice, that everybody is lifting each other up, and then her at the top, and then everybody below her are pushing each other, and they're all pushing each other to a higher level, which I think is definitely what's happening with the group.
Who else stood out to you with really impressive?
Well, our freshman Ashley Chopanis, she ended up 8th overall, and then Lamar, she's just she's a junior, but she's just slowly. She's kind of the quiet, like, back there, but slowly picking away, slowly working hard and moving forward, and starting to believe, how strong she really is too. And then we have that whole group of another 4 they've kind of been switching spots, being numbers 4 through 7, and they're all strong. So we just talked about yesterday too, if one of them doesn't have their best day, one of the other ones step up, and so it's nice to have 7. If you look at our 6th and 7th versus the 2 teams ahead of us, our 6th and 7th were way ahead of their next 2. So it just shows the strength, because if they have one of their top 5 not have a great day, they could fall, whereas it wouldn't make a huge difference for our group.
Yeah, I believe this is the first time you guys are back-to-back weekends in competition. Right?
Yeah.
So how do you kind of keep the foot on the gas a little bit, but also be conscious of where the bodies are at, and make sure they're perfect health-wise going in there this weekend?
Yeah, and we kind of are backing off, like we backed off a little bit on the long run after that race, and then this week backing off a little bit, just because because of just racing, like you said, but also this next meet is a huge one. There's actually 27 teams running, and 9 of them are ranked in the top 25. The UW Parkside is actually hosting the NCAA championships and the Midwest Region championships, so a lot of teams from across the country are coming to check out the course. So it's going to be almost like a mini national championships with that many ranked teams, 9 ranked teams, and then a lot of other really strong teams. So it'll be a great chance for our team to kind of see where we are against. There's also 7 teams from our conference that'll race there, and then the top teams from across the country.
So you kind of see it as a measuring stick for not only the whole team, but individual runners too?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and it'll be a good chance for Maddie to kind of see where she's at. But our team, and I think, we have a chance to beat a few of those teams possibly, and that are ranked, and move us up into the rankings in the country. So exciting weekend ahead for sure.
And I imagine it's probably Maddie's goal this year to get back to NCAAs where she was 2 years ago. Just how are you working with her to try and make sure she accomplishes that goal?
Yeah, we're working, kind of talking about each race, and she has some goals about how she's gonna race against, test herself against some of these top athletes in the next couple races, and then of course our region and our conference are really strong, and so just slowly testing to see what she can do, and keep working and keep staying healthy. But the big goal is for the whole team to get to nationals, because she wants to get there too, but it's and she had fun, but it's more fun to get your team there. So she's really motivated, and really motivated to keep working with the team to see what they can do as a group.